Going. So many of us fall into lazy waste habits, which can trash local jobs in the process. And I believe it's time for a zero waste wake up call for local governments that are not providing residents and businesses with responsible options for sustainable materials management. So we're talking recycling programs, food waste and yard waste, organic programs for composting, and to have avenues available for proper diversion of these materials away from landfill. So today we are talking trash and how waste reduction optimizes operations within the city government and builds efficiencies to make your city greener. So in this video, we'll go over some training slides. We'll talk about supporting local job markets and building out economic vitalities, stopping the burning of your cash for on poor disposal programs, and how you can kind of save it instead, and giving your customers really what they demand, and eco-friendly services where they themselves within their businesses and within their homes can be responsible. And this allows cities to show that they actually care. Starting to build up your green reputation as a city is really critical to bringing in new businesses and new families. To maybe younger families that you're looking to bring in. A lot of times that happens because cities have that green reputation. People want to live in cities where there's good quality of life, yeah, and that means good air quality, good water quality, proper management, and efficient use of resources as well. So this can help you also innovate smarter cash flow so that your city can succeed. And it really just boosts the local culture by engaging residents and business owners in sustainability. So make sure you also watch to the end, because I'm going to go over our online zero waste business academy for business owners and managers in the commercial real estate, food permitted enterprise, multifamily property management, hospitality, and higher education sectors. So this program that we offer is really perfect for people who work in those industries. So I'm going to switch over here to a couple of slides so that we can go through and we can walk them through. And definitely make sure to drop your comments or questions into the comment section so that I can answer those live here right now. So let me turn on the presentation mode. Here we are. So I've entitled this Zero Waste and Our Economy. And zero waste is something that, yes, it's environmental, but it also supports economic growth and local job growth, economic vitality. And you can't have these two pitting against each other. They have to work hand in hand. Let's think about if you've got natural resources over here in the environment, and then you use those natural resources over here in your business or within your city. One can't cancel the other out, because without the other it can't exist, right? So this is really where the hand in hand approach goes or comes into play. So our next slide, here we go. So I'm from Texas, and I'm gonna say y'all a lot, most likely, so bear with me. But we do have a problem, and it's a waste problem. So at least, let me get to the next slide. It's kind of slow, sorry. So at least here in Texas, we've got about 200 um, landfills, and this can be type one, two, three, four landfills. That would be like residential and business waste, medical waste, construction and demolition, and all sorts of different categories of waste. Some of these categories can't go into other landfills; they have to be kept separate. So there's different types of landfills, at least here within our state government. So when we talk about throwing something away, where exactly is that? So what I always say is, on a circular planet with finite resources, away is always somebody's in our ocean, somebody else's backyard, and it's always affecting public health. And so, if you're not familiar with what the wasteberg is, think of the iceberg, how you just see the tip. The vast majority is underwater. And the wasteberg is similar to that. So, think about for every pound of waste that you uh, roll out to the curb or that you put in your dumpster at your apartment complex or your business or whatnot, um, that 1 pound of waste actually has 71 pounds of waste attached to it further upstream. So this would be through the mining and refining processes, the production process, transportation process to actually get it onto the store shelves. So think about all of those supply chain, reactions that start further upstream, and think about what happens once you've used the product and then you dispose of it. So you and I as consumers, you and I as business owners, and even in the city, we are the crux, right? Because whatever happens after it leaves our hands determines what's going to happen to that piece of material or that waste downstream. So if I put my food waste into a recycling bin and contaminate the whole thing, well, it's probably going to have to go to landfill, right? So if I'm not separating correctly, and if I'm not um, doing this on a conscious level, then I have a high probability of contaminating that waste stream and the processors that are downstream, the recycling plant, the composting facility that takes in all the food waste and yard waste. They're not going to want to deal with that cross contamination issue. So, a lot of times it's more cost effective for them just to set it aside and make sure that it gets dumped into the landfill. So, you and I as consumers, you and I as business owners, and people who are residents in cities are the fulcrum, right? So it's really important to make sure that we're not only separating out our materials properly, but that we are demanding of our local governments that we actually have the programs in place so that we can be responsible, right? That we can separate those out correctly. So there's me. Yes, I'm in a dumpster. They don't call me the Texas trash talker for nothing. I am founder and CEO of Zero Waste Strategies. We're an environmental consulting firm, and we work with businesses, local government agencies, and institutions to help them reduce waste for increased revenue, deeper customer loyalty, employee empowerment, brand affinity, green marketing strategies. We do all this in house, so it's kind of your one stop shop for zero waste. And help develop and pass two statewide producer take back pieces of legislation for e-waste, which is computers and televisions, other kinds of electronics like cell phones and that type of thing. So we got companies like Dell and HP to sign on to and help us lobby for producer take back, where they're going to be taking back all of their own electronics, recycling them responsibly and for free for consumers, individual consumers just like you and me, not for businesses just yet. I also helped develop and pass 4 municipal recycling ordinances in the city of Austin, which included the single-use bag ordinance for plastic checkout bags and paper checkout bags. The residential composting. So residents finally got that third cart, trash, recycling, and composting. They got the little green cart so they could put their food waste and yard waste in there. And I helped pass the construction and demolition debris ordinance that requires 50% recycling of construction materials at new builds, renovations, remodels that are 5,000 square feet or more. And then there's one more, the universal recycling ordinance, which is the overarching business recycling standards that requires all commercial properties to have recycling programs in place and yearly education for their staff and tenants, as well as annual reporting to the city.
On top of that, the Universal Recycling Ordinance also requires food permitted businesses to dramatically reduce food waste heading to landfill, either through reduction, reuse, repurposing, donation, legal food donations, as well as composting. So you can use any kind of combination of those approaches to reduce your food waste. I also sat on the Austin Zero Waste Advisory Commission. So I was appointed by my then city council member in District 2. And now I'm a sitting board member of the State of Texas Alliance for Recycling, which is a partnership of businesses, as well as recycling and composting processors, volunteers, residents. We also take on heavy lifting at the legislature every other year here in Texas. So we do walk the hall events, and we go and do lobby events so that we can promote recycling in Texas, as well as help push policy that will make it a more even playing field to build out local material markets so that we can support not only recycling, but local manufacturing and building out those jobs using the recyclable material that these processors are taking in from businesses across the state and residents, not just businesses. So our next slide here is a little bit more of who we've worked with in the past. You may recognize some of these logos here, and we work with very large corporate businesses, but we can also scale down our practices where we can help local mom and pops as well. Our ideal client is larger corporations like these, but also mid-sized businesses that have, say 1,000 to 3,000 employees. But if you need help on a very small scale, we can do that too. So don't worry, definitely reach out if you need some assistance, or if you need to kind of walk through what you're envisioning for your company. I'd love to help. So next, we're just going to go over a broad overview of what actually is zero waste. So let's just do some key definitions here. So the zero waste terms that we like to use: diversion is a reduction or reuse of materials for new products or services instead of just sending them to landfill. So diversion allows us to keep those materials in the loop. So right now we're in very linear economy. We'll go over this here in a minute, but this allows us to loop those products back in multiple times and give them multiple life cycles. So zero waste is a program. It's really a business efficiency concept. This kind of made landfall here in the Austin area about 13 years ago, going on 14, I think. It was like 2009, 2010, whenever we started the discussions as stakeholders and got the policy pushed through and approved by the city council, and got the businesses on board to start diverting their waste. So it's a really business efficiency that has been pushing local governments to act as well. So it demands 90% waste reduction to landfills and incinerators. And we do that through material reduction, reuse, repair, recycling, repurposing, composting, upcycling, downcycling, and there's so many more categories in there before landfilling is an option. And organic materials. Now, when we talk about organics, this is not the aisle in your grocery store, your produce aisle. This is really anything that grows from the ground, like tree leaves that have fallen off a tree. We're entering fall and winter months. Well, not all that much here in Texas, but you get what I'm saying. Or anything that comes from something that grows. So maybe eggshells, oyster shells, anything that grows, like paper towels would be considered compostable, right? That would be considered organic material. And then composting is the actual biodegradation of these products that breaks down into an organic material. It's like a dark soil-like crumbly cake. It's like the consistency of looks like chocolate cake, but it breaks down into a soil that we call compost. So composting is the action, compost is the end result of that bio breakdown. So next, like I said, we'd go over the linear economy. This is where we're at right now. It's extremely destructive, and it is not regenerative. It's destructive because we mine natural resources out of the ground, then we refine them. Right? Think about crude oil into a plastic water bottle. We refine those natural resources. Thinking about bamboo stalks made into a cutting board. So we have to make the actual product. That's through the refinement piece of it. Then we have to transport it either throughout our state, across state lines, across country lines, um, internationally, or even overseas. So then the sale process comes into play, which is you and I as consumers or businesses buying the products that they need in order to sell, or you and I as consumers in the residential space buying what we need for our family as well. And then comes the dump. Then we dump it. It's the take, make, dispose linear process that is so destructive. And what we want to do is take the two ends of that linear economy and loop them like this. And that helps us go into a make, use, and recycle process where these materials are given multiple lives over multiple lifespans, multiple purposes. A lot of times we will reuse products that weren't made for that use intentionally, right? So we find reuse and repurpose processes for these materials that could have gone to landfill but didn't because we captured them, because it's a circular economy rather than linear. So next, we really want to highlight what local governments, corporations, school campuses, which are student-led initiatives, nonprofits, and even conferences are doing. So here in the city of Austin, we have a zero waste master plan that builds out our solid waste systems for the next 20, 30 years. So like I said, we started this in 2010 in Austin. So it was a 30-year long range solid waste plan that eventually turned into a zero waste master plan. And it details and highlights and guides the city departments, businesses, as well as residents on how to be zero waste, right? As a circular system within the city. So we've seen this being echoed in Fort Collins, New York City, San Antonio, and even in Culebra, Puerto Rico. So I mentioned Dell several times because they were an early adopter of take back recycling, which is another type of circular economy within their own internal business structure, right? So Dell has been instrumental in these types of policies and showing that commitment, not only showing the commitment, but demonstrating the actions that are measurable and they're accountable to as well. They're accountable to their investors, their shareholders, their customers, and their employees to show these green initiatives, how they work, show the numbers, and being transparent. We've seen this at Sierra Nevada Brewing Company and Xerox are some other very strong mentionables that are taking on these internal corporate policies and putting them to work to save money, to inspire their employees, as well as show their consumers that these are companies with a green heart, they care. Like I said, school campuses, of course, I've got to shout out Go Horns, the UT Austin here, St. Edward's, which is a private college campus here in Austin as well. These are two big proponents of the zero waste policies that we see reflected within the city of Austin, and they're leading the way. Other college campuses like Vanderbilt, Antioch, and Boston University, which is one of our clients, that we're helping them on their waste reduction journey as well. Nonprofits are really taking up the mantle and really showing other nonprofits how it can be done, especially on smaller shoestring budgets. But if zero waste is a cost saving initiative, it would make sense for nonprofits to go ahead and move forward with their own zero waste operations to save money. And then even conferences are working out these special strategies so that their event goers can be more responsible with their own materials, like composting the food that they're being served at these events and being able to recycle their cans and their bottles. So these conferences are stepping up on the zero waste front as well. So this is the zero waste hierarchy and how we see this. As you can see, the top three lines are really deconstructing waste as, or seeing trash as waste, or waste as non-valuable. These are ways to really be more innovative at the engineering, the material selection, and the design phase of production. So you and I, as consumers, don't have any say really in how a product is manufactured. So this at the very top is the furthest upstream that we can get in changing how things come to the store shelves, so that you and I, as residents, as consumers, and even business owners or managers, buy the products that are on our store shelves. It's because of the recyclability, the forethought that was put into the product development, the material selection, and the design phase, the innovation phase of the product being manufactured. So the the really great thing about reduce and reuse is that this is where we as consumers have a major influence. We can refuse products that don't align with our eco values, right? Businesses can choose to purchase one product over another to sell based on that product's green history, that, what kind of carbon footprint it puts out in order to be manufactured. So businesses can make their selections with the vendors and the suppliers. You and I can do the same as residents and consumers. But that the top piece of that is really deconstruction of the linear economy. The middle piece is more along the lines of highlighting diversion. So what about the materials that we already have on hand in our lives, at the office? What can we do with them so that they're not going to that very bottom red piece that says unacceptable? That's landfilling, and that is incineration. That's just burning things off, burying them, making sure that that's where the loss of jobs goes, is the burn and the bury piece of this. So we don't ever want to put anything in the unacceptable category of burning and burying our waste and our materials, because that's also burning and burying jobs. If we do that, then that means all the other strategies above that were not considered. So it's important that we are much more thoughtful about our materials. And let's face it, this stuff is not trash. It's not waste. These are discards. We're just not using them anymore. They still have value, lots of value, especially cardboard and white office paper and metals as well. These are very lucrative commodities on the materials market. So it's important that we are separating them out, and that we're reducing as much as we can, reusing everything that we possibly can in multiple fashions. And then we get to the recycle, compost, material recovery, which would be like yellow grease that is refined into biodiesel that you can put in a diesel engine. Yes, that's pretty cool stuff. You can look that up as well. But again, the hierarchy is there to help guide our decision making around how we manage our discards. And we can either deconstruct the linear economy at the top, we can use diversion methods in the middle, but we definitely don't want to use the disposal method at the end. So this is just an what's it called, an oversight of what our U.S. Composition of our garbage stream, our trash stream looks like. Durable goods are things that have more than a 3-year lifespan, like appliances, automobiles, even construction not equipment, but construction materials like bricks and wood. Non-durable goods would be things that have a lifespan of less than 3 years. So think baby diapers, right? And then containers and packaging. This is a lot of how we get our products, right? What does the packaging look like that our products come in? Is it corrugated cardboard that is very lucrative on the materials market, or other plastic containers, that kind of thing that can be recycled? Food is another one. Food is a really big deal. It's organic. There's about 30 to 40% of our entire waste stream is organic material. And remember, organic is something that grows or comes from something that grows. So food comes from something that grows, and yard waste is something that grows. So let's think about combining those two categories there. And we've got 33%, almost 34%. So, we're just proper management of our organic stream can make a huge difference in the overall materials management process and keeping those materials out of landfill. Remember, whenever food and yard waste starts to rot in a landfill, that puts off carbon or methane, which is about 21 to 72 times more potent than carbon dioxide whenever it gets to the atmospheric level, right? So it's important to keep those materials out of landfill. And that's why composting is such a key value add to our communities. It keeps those greenhouse gas emissions down. So this next slide is why zero waste is important. So the 5 Ps, you've heard of the 3 Ps, right? So people, planet, profit, but I think there's a couple more. One is purpose. We have to be purposeful in the way that we handle these materials. We have to be purposeful in the way that we view our discards, and we have to have purpose in how we are selecting the items that we're choosing for our families, for our office, for our business. And the next one, you probably can't see it here, is policy. Policy is really critical at the local, county, state, and federal level, so that we even the playing field for businesses. If there are some businesses that are doing way more than what they're supposed to because they have that much commitment to a internal zero waste economy, an operational structure, and then one business doesn't do anything and they send everything to landfill, that is, it's uneven. And we want to make sure that businesses are doing their fair share, as well as residents being able to have the proper options in order to handle their materials correctly. So again, we talked a little bit about building out the local markets, and this would be where we start to create jobs for local remanufacturing, using those materials that were kept local rather than sending them overseas or across state lines or in other countries. Why are we sending our materials to Mexico and India whenever we could be creating industrial jobs, manufacturing jobs here in Texas? You might want to ask the same of your own city and state governments. If you've got a big materials export operation going on, that could be sending your jobs overseas as well. So really want to take a look at that. Whenever we keep materials hyper local, we can create jobs at the hyper local level as well. And this saves money because, let's face it, transportation is where any business is going to lose any profits. So keeping things local saves money, it saves energy, it reduces your transportation emissions. and it keeps those greenhouse gases down from landfill emissions. And it also creates the opportunities to drive a green marketing edge over your business competitors. Or if you're a city or like a municipal government or a county government, being able to tout that you're building out a green culture within your city really helps recruit newer families and newer businesses as well. So the next thing here is just to kind of break down the jobs equation here. Zero waste is really important because it builds out green jobs with dignity that are well paying and that have proper protections. So your trash man is not just the trash man. That person has a very critical job in our society. This person, him or her, they, whoever, are allowing us to live a good quality of life because we don't have a constant backup of refuse in our streets, in the parking lots, floating up and down our rivers, right? So they keep things sanitary. So and this is from the EPA, per every 1,000 tons of waste, if you landfill it or you incinerate it, that's just one job. It takes one person to push a button on a truck to have the hydraulics lift and slide everything out into, to the landfill open working phase. But if you take that same 10,000 tons of waste or materials, discards, right? Valuable materials, we can create 4 composting jobs, 10 recycling jobs, and you probably can't see this, but it's 75 to 250 jobs through the reuse and repair sectors. So that is really something that local governments should be considering, is building out the local job markets through local materials recovery and being able to support local economic vitality. So one thing that local governments should really look at is, and this is especially true for local governments that already have like a drop-off center for recyclables or a household hazardous waste facility. There are things that can be done and grants out there that can be applied for in order to expand upon or build something new like this, where you can have just like a small local circular economy where residents and businesses can come in and they can unload metals, and maybe it's scrap metal, and maybe a house down the road was deconstructed and the facades were saved rather than demolished. You can bring, especially if they have strong historical reference in your local community, you don't want to destroy that, right? You want to save whatever you can. Old barnwood, that's very popular in building right now. Things like that, where you can have a local market where businesses and local residents can come in and shop these salvaged materials, and they can build new things. They can renovate their homes. They can remodel their business spaces. So there's all sorts of things that can be brought in. Let's say food waste for beautification projects that have been turned into compost. Well, the local farmer might want to come and pick up some compost material that's already been processed. Maybe your local residential green thumb person that has a fantastic garden wants to come and pick up some compost to fertilize their crops. Or maybe there's a mulching operation here where the city can use that to beautify the medians, the road medians, and use it for irrigation and erosion control on downsloping areas near highways or whatnot. So there's all sorts of things that we can do with these materials that would come from the community and then be bought by the community. So it's a revenue generating piece of the puzzle here that could possibly, land the city some good returns, especially if you have a cardboard dumpster compactor that bales so that you can sell it, right? You can sell those bales of cardboard on the local materials market. Maybe a business wants to come and buy that up because they've got products that they need to ship out, and they don't want to buy new cardboard. They want to get the discounted rate at the Eco Depot, and they can send out their products and make sure that those products are protected for their consumers. So just something else to think about. So I'm going to go over real quick some zero waste grant opportunities for local governments. And first, we can start with the Inflation Reduction Act, and through the Department of Energy, there are billions and billions of dollars in grants available for local government access. And through the Department of Energy and this Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. And these funds can be used for waste reduction projects within a local community, setting up food waste composting and collection, conservation infrastructure, as well as climate risk mitigation measures. So something like that would look like, maybe we want to install, tracking and measurement devices at the local landfill to measure the emissions coming off the landfill and how we can reduce those. So there's all sorts of things that these policies and these departments can provide for local governments in order to be greener as a community. So another thing here is corporate grants. So HEB, if you're not from Texas, HEB is like our diehard grocer across the state, and they're only in Texas. They're ranked one of the top 1 or 2 grocers in the entire country. And they do a lot for local businesses in their areas where they're located, and do a lot of philanthropic work as well. But the Our Texas, Our Future grants, $25,000 for a local government is pretty big, especially if you're in more rural areas where you don't have a whole bunch of waste generation. Maybe your larger areas like New York or here in Austin or Chicago is going to generate a lot more of these discards than a more rural, maybe farming community, or a community that is starting to blow up, like outside of Austin. At least in cities like Bastrop, we're looking at 25% population growth in the next 10 years. And unfortunately, there's not many green programs in place. So residents are going to be moving from cities that already have these services into smaller cities. They're expecting these services to already be online. So imagine coming to a community where you've recycled all your life, you've moved to a new community and they have zero recycling or zero curbside, and you can only bring your materials to the local drop-off centers. So that's going to be a little bit of a shakeup there. What about all the food waste, right? If you're not able to compost your food waste at the curb like you did in the last city, then you got to figure out something else to do with it. So there's massive opportunity for local governments to achieve grant submissions and to win these awards. So even nonprofits like Keep Texas Beautiful, I'm sure that you have a Keep whatever state or whatever city beautiful chapter in your local area. If not, see which one is closest to you. Maybe you'll want to join the state chapter, but they provide $5,000 to $15,000 grants, and they have what's called the Texas Recycles Day grant. And if you didn't know, we have Texas Recycles Day every November 15th. It's either on November 15th or around that date, but it actually started, in Texas. So Texas Recycles Day started in 1994 and then became America Recycles Day. It was expanded 3 years later when a couple of employees of the state's environmental agency took this idea to the National Recycling Coalition. They adopted Texas Recycles Day and kept the same date, right, November 15th, and they expanded it nationally. So now all Americans can recognize America Recycles Day, and this can be done at the local, county, state, and national level as well to recognize that. And what this does is really promote recycling as a responsible option, and it helps people understand that waste is full of valuable discards, that it's not waste. And so this is a really amazing way to have a strong national focus on this sector. And I don't know of really any other sectors that have such a circularity to it than the recycling industry. And it affects the upstream and downstream supply chain and everything in between, where you and I are in the middle as the actual business purchaser or the consumer as well. So we have a tendency to be able to control that seesaw of how things are handled or designed, not designed, but how we're buying our items off the store shelves from responsible companies or not so responsible companies. And then what happens to them downstream? Are we recycling? Are we composting? Are we, donating to the local food bank instead of trashing that can of tomatoes? Like, how are we handling these materials is a really critical way to think about the upstream and downstream in your everyday life, because every single product that you have in your home or in your office or outdoors at a business it has its own upstream and downstream supply chain. And there's always that middleman, you and me, as the purchaser. So we get to decide how these systems work, and we get to decide which ones do we support. Do we support landfilling everything and unsustainable choices, or do we support sustainable choices where we divert things from the landfill and we create that circular economy that we need, that will perpetuate green jobs within our local area, green manufacturing as well. So another grant programs, at least here in Texas, we have state and regional grants. Our state environmental agency, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. Notice how I said Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, not Texas Commission for Environmental Quality. The TCEQ has a long history of permitting landfills that have become a problem later on. So it's a regulatory agency that sometimes doesn't do its job. So the more that we feed landfills, my goal as an environmental consultant, starve landfills, but the more landfills that we feed, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger, they seek expansions, and permitting is needed for all of that. But we're just filling a hole in the ground. That's what a landfill is, honestly. So how can we not feed the hole in the ground? How can we starve those landfills? And a lot of that comes through the councils of governments. You probably have COGs in your area. These are regional areas in your state that will that take money from the state, and they will allocate it to applicants through local governments. Local governments put in their application to create a new recycling center, or to do education campaigns for the public, or to put on collection events for e-waste, paint, batteries. They'll do all sorts of equipment purchases for like balers and styrofoam extruders and that kind of thing. So they can't necessarily dip into taxpayer funds at the local level. What they can do is apply for these grants at the state level, and they're administered by the councils of government, which are conglomerations of regional county governments. I know it's a lot, sorry. Um, and then the last thing that I think a lot of businesses and cities overlook is those green marketing opportunities. So what do I mean by that? Um, green marketing. So really want to build trust among neighbors and businesses. Sorry, my logo's in the way, so you can't really see it. So if you've got a green community and everybody knows that, oh, you live in this, green town, say, take Austin, for instance. A lot of people think, keep Austin weird, and it's a very green city. And we have Barton Springs, which is the natural spring, the gem of the city. Everybody is of the mindset to conserve and protect, right? Well, not everybody, but that's the reputation the city gets. So having a green reputation as a city is really a very highly marketable, strategy. And you can use that to pull in new businesses and pull in new residents who want to live in good quality of life areas. So another thing that cities can do is to make sure that there's environmentally preferable purchasing practices within their city or county government. And what that is EPA guidance to help your procurement department buy products that have been vetted for environmental sustainability. So one thing that you can do is to take a look at these EPA policies for EPPP, environmentally preferable purchasing practices. We just call it EPPP because it's a mouthful, as you can tell. I can barely say it, but the EPPP guidelines from the EPA would allow you to make those purchasing habits and have guidelines to follow for your procurement department, the people who are making the purchases for your departments internally on behalf of the city government. Businesses can do this as well. It's highly recommended that businesses also have an EPPP in place so that everybody knows where they should be purchasing from, and that new vendors go through a vetting process also. And then another thing that cities can do is to go ahead and create an office of sustainability. This is, a lot of cities that are larger have these types of offices where they can have different strategies like public awareness campaigns, sustainable events, and educational programming. Green certification. Our business is a platinum member of the Austin Green Business Leaders Program, and it's because the Office of Sustainability through the City of Austin has that program. They administered it, so we were able to enroll and pass a rigorous checklist, and we got our green certification as a business. The Office of Sustainability can also create business partnerships as well to do public education campaigns or waste reduction campaigns where businesses can opt in to be a local sponsor of these campaigns, or they can do promotional events around green initiatives in collaboration with the city. There's also data transparency. How great would it be for a resident or a business owner to go onto the city's website to see the waste reduction numbers, to see the increase in recycling and composting, and feel that sense of pride, right? We did that. We are going for it. We're going for the 90%. We're only at 45% this year, but next year we want to get to 50%, and so on and so on. So you can see a month-on-month growth of your recycling and composting increase of your recycling rates, but also a decrease in the waste heading to landfills. So being able to display that and showing that data transparency, I think that helps allow people to buy in, to create ownership, individually, and to, just promote these initiatives over bad habits such as trashing everything and putting it at the curb for landfill pickup. So this, one thing that these types of offices can also do is to create public policy. That policy can drive green initiatives and policies or standards that businesses have to comply with. These are enforceable policies where the businesses need to get on board in order to be leaner and greener, and to help residents and the businesses save on taxes as well. So, creating these policies can also create not only incentives, but rebates as well. So you can give these rebates through these grant programs that your city or county is applying for also. So just a couple of things to think about whenever it comes to how your city is moving forward. And do we want to build that trust? Absolutely. Do we want to have better purchasing habits? Absolutely. Do we want to be able to engage cities, the residents and the businesses within the city through a special office that deals specifically with sustainability? Absolutely. So I think it can all be done. Maybe, maybe your city might be a little too small at this time to create an entire office just to deal with sustainability, but there's a lot that can be done now and in the future that other departments that are already established can kind of incorporate these types of programs that I have listed out here. And so these are some additional resources that I always like to reference. The Zero Waste International Alliance is the global zero waste agency or nonprofit that kind of sets the definitions, the goals, and the standards of zero waste, period. So they are the go-to resource. And your community can actually sign up as a zero waste community, and it can make a public statement, right? You can put something out on your website and make a public statement that we plan to go zero waste, and you can be listed on their website. And they give you all sorts of resources and connections within the zero waste realm, our industry, right? To be able to guide you in certain directions of where your city council or your county commissioners court has decided it wants to go. So the next is the U.S. Green Building Council. They really administer certifications for LEED standards, which is LEED. And what I mean by that is the standards that we use for conservation of water and energy and green building retrofits in buildings all across the country. So they do the LEED certification. There's also TRUE certification, which is kind of like LEED for energy and water, but TRUE is for trash reduction. And I'm TRUE certified, so I've been through the testing process of the zero waste TRUE Zero Waste Advisor process. So if you need any consultation on your waste reduction programs, how we can improve them, I'm more than happy to speak with you about that and how we can go about getting your facility TRUE certified for waste reduction. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation is really the leading organization that has structured the circular economy. So if you need anything circular economy, that's the website you want to hit up. The Five Gyres Institute really tracks the swirling plastic garbage patches in each of our oceans. Some of them are twice the size of Texas. And this is a really big problem. These gyres of plastic waste are causing massive problems for water quality as well as marine life, wildlife as well. So the Five Gyres Institute really gives all sorts of practical ways in order to reduce your plastic consumption, especially single-use plastics. And then the Story of Stuff project is really great, especially if you have kids and you want to explain these big ideas, these big concepts around environmental protection and consumerism and that type of thing. They use like short 20-minute cartoon vignettes that explain these very big ideas and concepts in very bite-sized and enjoyable pieces to break it down to digestible parts. So it's really great for kids to help them understand. And, with that, I always ask, if we're not for zero waste, how much waste are we for? So I'm going to end my presentation here. This is my information. If you have any questions, if you want to get in contact with me, if you're interested in enrolling or at least applying for our zero waste business program, it's the Cash for Trash Zero Waste Business Program. It's an online training course where we will help you with zero waste concepts and protocols, and helping you get your plan together, and how to also train your staff to get their buy-in as well, and then help you with green marketing strategies. Like I said, our zero waste program is kind of a one-stop shop for all your zero waste needs. So let me know if we can be of any assistance to your company and help, or your local government, in helping design out programs that will be effective and that will gain the buy-in of your employees, and maybe even your residents and the businesses in your local area. So drop some comments if you have any questions, but also reach out to me at the phone number or my email. You can also DM me here on whichever, social media platform you're watching on right now. So I will get back to you as soon as I can. But either way, I hope this helped. Zero waste is a critical piece to the circular economy, and we can't do it without you. So Texas Trash Talkers,